We are talking about how to rebound from a setback. If you've fallen, then how is the fastest way to get back on track and also minimizing the damage caused from that setback? Now, if you're a human being, you've started some diet or training program in life and you've fallen off the wagon. It happens. Every single human, I would say there's probably not a human being out there that this hasn't happened to. I bet you probably it's happened to David Goggins. I'm not going to lie. It probably has. But when we look at
David Goggins, if it hasn't,
if it hasn't, let us know. But when we look at it, I think it's happened to everyone. So we have to understand this is common humanity. If it's happened to you, it's happened to everyone else. It's like it's not you. It's the human race. So I think it's rather than like going, oh, woe is me, what's wrong with me? It's like, it's nothing wrong with you, you're just a human being. I think if we can gain common humanity in this and understand this does happen to people, and it happens to every single person on this planet who is trying to better themselves and they have some form of plan, there is a moment in time where you will fall off the plan. But the biggest thing that I've fallen off the plan more times than once. Okay. And, in my lifetime. And I think the biggest thing for me is it's staying down for less time each time I fall off. That's honestly the biggest thing you have to look at. It's like, okay, if I fell off the plan, some people stay down for like a month. Some people stay down for a year. Some people stay down for a week. It's like understanding it's like, if you fell off the plan and last time you fell off and you went like this whole screw it mentality and you fell off the plan for 4 weeks and you put a little bit of weight back on, you have to go, well, I'm not going to stay down for that long this time. Your whole ability to pivot back faster and rebound and flip the switch faster and faster. So it comes down to 2 weeks or a week or a day when you fall off. And that's going to be the key to consistency and long-term transformation. Because when you fall off and you've got a long-term transformation and you fall off for only a day or 2 days, or you're going on holiday for a week or whatever it is, it doesn't really make a big impact when you have 51 other weeks where you nailed your plan. Like that 1 week where you fell off, it doesn't really matter. So I think it's being key of understanding how long you fell off and how can I pivot back faster next time.
Yeah, we spoke about this a little bit at the on the Easter podcast, which was a month a bit ago for those of you who catch up with us live. But there's obviously more reasons than just a holiday why people fall off the bandwagon, right? And that's something that we want to run through in a bit more detail. Is what are some of the reasons why you tend to fall off? How can you learn from them? How can you minimize them as well in the future? And then we'll take a look at, well, how do you get back on effectively? And having a plan obviously is the biggest thing going into anything where you think it might throw you out. But I want to talk about the language is always so intense, right? Like thinking about, fucking 1800s, pioneers, you're rolling across the sandy desert terrain and there's like a wagon being pulled by some mules or some shit and you fall off the wagon, right? And then you're left in the ditch and then the wagon just keeps on going, right? That's the mentality that a lot of people have when they think of that. They think of, oh, I've fallen off the wagon and basically you're being left behind. But there's another wagon coming along every minute. Right, like it's not a permanent situation where now you've got to wait like a certain period of time or you've got to go through certain experiences. Like you can get up and get back on as quickly as you decide to, but for a lot of people, they just don't have that mentality to get back into it straight away.
Yeah, mate, I definitely not a wagon anymore. It's more like an Uber. You can just call up the next one, you get in it, and you keep going forward. So I think
it's a conga line. Just fucking whip it back in.
Exactly, because everyone's going in the same direction. People fall off, and you just want to jump back in line. I honestly think that's so crucial for people to understand. I think the internal language is probably the biggest thing that holds people back. So why people fall off, it can be some form of, we were talking about before, there's some form of tragedy. I've had clients in the past where, they may have been separated with their partner and, they've lost their kid in the custody battle, or something's happened with their kids, or they've divorced, or they've had an injury. They've like lost their job at work. So it's like, there's all these little nuances, or honestly, it could be just something minor that you catastrophized. So you had a bad day at work and then you all of a sudden you're like, oh, my work's going to fire me. They haven't fired you, so you don't know. And you start to catastrophize over this and you make it bigger to what it seems. You have this kind of anxiety build up inside yourself and then you shut down everything else. and you focus on just like your work, right? Or just your relationship. So I think there's so many different points that do throw us off. I think some of us have certain triggers that will throw us off as well. So if it happens more often than not, you need to identify those triggers and try and take them out. But then once you have the triggers, I think the language, and you're so good with this, Jace, the language and your self dialogue and flipping that self dialogue is probably the biggest thing you need to do to start to get back on track. Before the training, before anything, it's like you're the internal mindset battle with your communication with yourself. Like if you talk to yourself like you would your best friend, right? You know, so we're asked, we call ourselves a failure, we call ourselves a loser, we say we can't do anything, what's wrong with you? Imagine if you said that to your best friend, they definitely wouldn't be your best friend anymore, right? So we need to start being kinder to ourselves. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. But I like to sprinkle a bit of kindness with actually a bit of reality and ownership as well. So don't just be soft on yourself. It's like, woe is me, like self-love movement. Yeah, you fell off, you're human, but don't love yourself into obesity. Love yourself into being the healthiest version of you and get back on track.